assessing points to know we're leading every single one. A judo can exalt us like the music of the song, and take away the plane in which we move and choose the course you run down at the end, round the corner, not right.
Hey fellow music fans, welcome back to Psychology of Rock. If you're new to the channel, my name's Nina, and as many of you know, there is nothing I love more than analyzing songs from the bands that I admire the most. And one track that I've been thinking about a lot lately is Close to the Edge by Yes, which is of course from the album of the same name and is definitely my personal favorite album by the band. I just think it is absolutely brilliant. Now, the album itself contains only 3 tracks, with the title track taking up one entire side of the record. And the song consists of 4 movements, which, according to the band, were inspired both musically and lyrically by Hermann Hesse's novel Siddhartha. And the thematic similarities are definitely evident, which we'll talk about as we dive a little further into the song. And although I think the word masterpiece gets tossed around a little too often when we talk about pieces of music, I think if there is any one song that legitimately deserves the title, it is this one. It is a masterpiece in every sense of the word. I mean, the track is over 18 minutes in length, but I have never heard anyone say ever that they think it's too long, because it's just completely captivating from start to finish. But like I said, today we're not going to be talking about the obvious musical genius here. We are actually going to be discussing the lyrics, which have always completely fascinated me. And because the music itself is just so impressive, I think oftentimes get overlooked. Now, Jon Anderson has said many times that the lyrics he writes often only reveal their meanings to him later, meaning that even he doesn't always fully understand the depth of his own creations until after they've been written and performed. And he isn't the first artist to say this. To me, this suggests that the themes that sometimes come out on the page may be more deeply rooted in the artist's unconscious mind than they initially realize, which I think makes the songs just that much more interesting. In a 2012 interview about Close to the Edge, Jon was quoted as saying, "For lyrics, I did a rough sketch of the whole piece, but as the sections came together, that's when I rewrote the words. It took about 3 or 4 revisions till everything was there. It's all metaphors. Simply put, a seasoned witch could call you from the depths of your disgrace. That means that your higher self will eventually bring you out of your dark world." And to me, I think that although the lyrics are somewhat abstract and ultimately open to individual interpretation, this beautifully illustrates what I feel is the main theme of the song, the concepts of individuation and spiritual transcendence. I tend to see it as a quest for self-discovery, with the protagonist moving through existential trials and awakening to a higher understanding. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Jon explained that the lyrics drew from the spiritual and philosophical ideas that were explored in Siddhartha. But after analyzing the song, I actually feel like it can be even more profoundly understood through the lens of Jungian psychology, which is the focus of today's video. And believe it or not, there is actually a pretty direct link between Hesse and the work of Carl Jung, which we can clearly see in Siddhartha. These works echo many of the same themes, like personal transformation, self-discovery, and finally becoming whole. Now, as a super quick overview, Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology and profoundly impacted our understanding of the human psyche. And come to find out, when Hesse was going through a difficult time in his life, he actually underwent psychoanalysis with Carl Jung's student, and later became deeply influenced by Jungian ideas, particularly the concepts of individuation, the collective unconscious, and archetypes. These ideas clearly shaped Siddhartha in many ways, and this of course means that since Close to the Edge was inspired by the book, that it was also directly influenced by the theories of Carl Jung, which I was immediately able to spot when I began analyzing the song through this lens. So let's just go ahead and dive in, but as always, I want to give the disclaimer that this is just my own personal analysis. I am in no way attempting to speak for the band, and with any work of art, there can be multiple valid meanings and interpretations, especially for this song, including whatever it means to us personally. So with all of that being said, let's take a deeper look at Close to the Edge and its connection to Jungian psychology.
Close to the edge, down by the river.
So the first thing that I want to talk about here is the actual title of the song, which also shows up as a lyric within the song several times. To me, the edge is a metaphor for the critical threshold in the individuation process, which is one of Jung's key concepts, and also what I believe is the main theme in the song. Individuation is the process of integrating all of the different parts of our psyche, which according to Jung included the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, the shadow, the anima and animus, and all of the different archetypes to achieve wholeness and finally become our true self. In essence, it's a journey of self-discovery where we confront our inner conflicts and transcend our ego to access a greater and more enlightened state of being. We can think of enlightenment, especially in relation to the song, as almost the reward that comes from individuation, where a person finally achieves harmony between the personal and collective unconscious and begins to embrace a deeper understanding of life's interconnectedness. I feel like the song's journey, much like the individuation process itself, is not linear. We hear moments of intense introspection, like the opening line, followed by periods of intense energy and release. And I think the repeated lines specifically of I get up, I get down, perfectly capture the cyclical nature of the human experience and almost mirror the ebbs and flows of our emotional and psychological states. In the individuation process, we sometimes feel like we're really making progress. And then other times we really feel like we're moving backwards. It's like there's a war between our ego and our higher self. And as a side note, I love that the song ends with the words, I get up, because it suggests a sense of optimism and a willingness to embrace the process of self-discovery, even when it's difficult. But back to the title of the song, I also think it might represent the almost precarious balance between the old self and the enlightened, individuated self. Or in other words, standing on the brink of psychological transformation. Now, Jung believed that this process requires us to confront what he referred to as the shadow self. This is a part of our unconscious mind that contains all the aspects of ourselves that we reject, repress, or deny. This can include the darker parts of our personality or our negative traits like selfishness, greed, or aggression, but it can also include our positive qualities that we simply fail to acknowledge or develop. Jung believed that integrating this shadow leads to psychological enlightenment because it resolves our inner conflict and it allows us to accept our true nature. I think towards the end of the song, it alludes to the protagonist's successful individuation and integration of the shadow. He says things like, now that it's all over and done, and now that you're whole, which definitely suggests that. Now, another theme I see in this song is the collective unconscious, which is the cornerstone of Carl Jung's analytical psychology that refers to a shared pool of ancestral memories, experiences, and archetypes that exist within the deepest layers of our human psyche. I think the river in the song is a powerful metaphor for the collective unconscious, like it's a flowing, timeless collection of our shared experiences. So being close to the edge of this river might suggest that the protagonist is near a transformative confrontation with the deeper layers of his psyche. In Jungian terms, crossing the river might also signify venturing into the unconscious to access suppressed truths and true wisdom. I think the collective unconscious might also be represented at the end of the song in the lines, "Then, according to the man who showed his outstretched arm to space, he turned around and pointed, revealing all the human race." And like I mentioned earlier, I think the song definitely suggests that the protagonist's journey has ended in reaching wholeness through individuation. But according to Jung, the end of this process also marks enlightenment. This is where the ego surrenders to a greater understanding that all things are connected. Enlightenment in Jungian terms is not about escaping reality, but about embracing it fully, with a conscious awareness of both the personal and collective unconscious. And that brings us to the final theme in the song, which is enlightenment as transcendence. Right at the end it says, "Now that it's over and done, call to the seed, right to the sun. Now that you find, now that you're whole, seasons will pass you by." I think this could, of course, have a few different interpretations, but if we look back at Siddhartha, it could be talking about transcending the physical world altogether. In other words, it could be saying that when we reach a state of enlightenment or spiritual awareness, we will become detached from the flow of time and material concerns and ultimately achieve a state of union with the universe instead of simply being attached to the limitations of our own ego, which is also the ultimate goal of individuation in Jungian thought. I think the word seed and sun here could be seen as symbols of this transcendent state that represent the potential for growth, renewal, and deeper connection with this universal life force. But either way, it's just such masterful and poetic writing here. Now, clearly this song is intentionally abstract and symbolic and absolutely open to a wide range of interpretations. But I do think in essence it narrates a metaphorical quest, as did the inspiration for the lyrics, Siddhartha. And while Jungian psychology is certainly not the only lens through which Siddhartha or Close to the Edge can be analyzed, I think it does provide a helpful and compelling framework for understanding their themes of spiritual growth and self-realization. I truly feel that Close to the Edge is one of the greatest pieces of music ever recorded, and I would love to hear your thoughts on the song and what your interpretation is. I don't think there are ever wrong answers when it comes to art. I think it's more about whatever it evokes in the listener, but I always think that it helps us to connect with and to appreciate a song even more when we spend time contemplating its meaning. So those are my thoughts on Close to the Edge, but like I said, I look forward to hearing yours. I hope you enjoyed today's analysis. Please let me know what song you'd like me to analyze next. Thanks so much for being here. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't, and I will see you in the next video.
Thank you.